Hey guys, it's Wayne, one of the editors over here at CGM, and this week for Sound Off, I've got a little plea to Sony. You can see in my hands, I've been messing around with this. It's a Vita. This is my own personal Vita, and I've noticed an interesting little thing. I'll tell you a little story about what happened last week. Depending on the way the Wi-Fi gods of the internet go, you can take this little Vita now, and if you have a PS4, you can actually remote play with your PS4 from as far away as, like, in this case, my PS4 being at my home while I mess around with it here in the office, which is many, many, many miles away from where home is. Now, last week I actually demonstrated this for some of the people in the office, and a few people freaked out and were like, wow, okay, that's a game changer, that's the next gen, I'm totally going to get a Vita now. Which, on the one hand, is good, but on the other hand, I'm a little concerned that this is going to become a big selling point for the Vita, and that Sony is going to start focusing on your Vita becomes that remote play device that the Wii U should have been but isn't. And I think that's doing a real disservice to the Vita because, for example, there's a game out right now. It's called Tearaway by Media Molecule. I don't know whether you guys have heard of it, but it's doing very, very well critically. I'm playing it. I'm enjoying it. It is one of the games which, if you own a Vita, you have to own this game. It's just absolutely amazing. It's full of charm. And my real concern now is that, it's like if Sony realizes that people are buying their Vita just so that they can remote play on the PS4, they're going to think to themselves, well, why do we have to go through the expense of, paying for all of these kick-ass games when people really aren't interested in Vita games anymore? They just want to use their Vita to play their PS4 when they're not at home. And I think that would be a real tragedy because the Vita in and of itself is an amazing piece of hardware. I mean, it's like you play games like the Uncharted Vita game, you play Wipeout, you play Gravity Rush, you play Tearaway, it's like even some of the third-party stuff like, Batman, Arkham Origins, Blackgate. All of these are really, really impressive looking games that, it's like take advantage of what the Vita can do. It's like they use interesting things with touch, they use interesting things with the camera, they use interesting things with, it's like the gyroscope, the ability to detect motion. All of these things are, things that you can't get anywhere else except the Vita, and the Vita itself is capable of producing some very, very respectable graphics. So it just seems a little wrong then that, it's like now the only reason that people care about the Vita is because they just want to be able to play their PS4. It's like this thing can do so much more. My only real regret about the Vita is that they didn't actually include any kind of telephone communication, because if, for example, this thing had a phone built in, it would actually probably be one of the best smartphones out on the market. It's like certainly if you're a gamer, it's like not only would you be able to play your own Vita games, you would be able to play the PS4 if you absolutely have to, and you would also get some decent telecommunications. So there's an incredibly powerful piece of hardware here that's not being fully utilized. And if we put an emphasis on the remote play, I'm worried that we're never actually going to see that potential, it's like utilized again in the future, because it's just so much cheaper for Sony and for other people to say, it's like, yeah, well, and when you buy this game on the PS4, you'll be able to play it on the Vita, as opposed to, okay, let's put a ton of money into the development for a Vita game that, it's like uses all of the bells and whistles, but that is going to take time. And of course, there's also going to be a huge expenditure. The Vita is actually worth that expenditure. There are a lot of unique experiences that you can get on this little machine, and even though it doesn't have the vast library that the 3DS does, I think that's really only because people haven't given the Vita a chance. It's like the 3DS has proven that there is a market out there for portable games, and they don't just have to be, it's like little smartphone or tablet games that it's like run a couple of bucks on some kind of online store. They can actually be full-fledged gaming experiences. You can play your RPGs, you can play your first-person shooters, you can even play these games online. But they're only possible with devices like the 3DS and the Vita. So, it's like, let's not ignore the fact that a Vita is a perfectly fine game machine on its own. Pay attention to this, Sony. This is some important stuff here. You could still make some money off of this thing alone. Consider it.